Kenny's Yacht Maintenance, welcome back. Today we're gonna be stripping this bar. This is a bar for a villa and it sits outdoor overlooking the ocean. So we're gonna be stripping it and refinishing it. Stay tuned. Okay, now that we have stripped off this bar top, we're using paint stripper. We're pasting it all over the wood so it will extract all the old varnish from the grain of the wood. It's important to wear gloves and have some eyewear when using paint stripper. You don't want this stuff on your skin at all. And we're just gonna cover the surface with paint stripper, and after that we're gonna use some bronze wool. We'll be using this bronze wool to get all that old varnish out of the grain. Alright, so what we're doing now is using the bronze wool to extract all the varnish from the grain. So what the paint stripper does, the paint stripper will burn the varnish and extract the varnish from the grain. And now we're using the bronze wool to really get all that varnish off the wood. So the next step will be to use sandpaper, 80 grit sandpaper, and sand everything before applying the sealer. So stay tuned. Now if we look carefully, we will see that this joint in both ends, this end and also this end right here, this joint is higher than the surface of this joint. So I'm gonna use the sander and really sand this down so we have a level that this one meet this one. So I'm gonna take this one down. Same with this end over there. This end is higher, this joint is higher than this surface, so I'm gonna use the sander and take this down. Also, if you look carefully here, you're gonna see some open seams all along, and that's what caused failures in the first finish, because moisture is gonna get into the seams. So I'm gonna sand this and then seal all those seams, fill that in with some wet system. So it's gonna be a project right here. This is all along that seam, it's open, and that will cause failures if we don't address that. So stay tuned. Kenny's Yacht Maintenance. Now all the areas that you see the blue tape on are areas that I marked off that has open seams as I described, and I taped them off, and I just mixed up some wet system resin with the 405 filling blend, and that I mix it up in here. That's the consistency of it. It's nice and runny. And all I'm gonna do is use a brush and just place it in that seam everywhere and make sure it fills the void. Trying to use one hand to hold the camera, and I will let that dry, and then I will sand that down with the sander. I am using a small spreader to really force it into the open seams, just to make sure that it really enters and seal that open gap. So now that the wet system is dried, we are sanding it. It filled all the open areas, all the open joints. So we're sanding it with 80 grit sandpaper. Then we're gonna sand it with 150 grit sandpaper, and it will be ready for sealer. So now that we have sanded all the surface with 80 grit sandpaper using the Festool sander, as you could see, all the joints are completely sealed. All the joints, so there's no void, there's no opening to cause failures. Now we are gonna go over with 150 grit sandpaper, sanding it by hand and going with the grain to ensure that there is no sander scratches in there that's gonna show in the finish. So the only way to ensure that is to actually going over everything by hand manually with 150 grit sandpaper. Just to ensure that there's no ripples from the sander scratching. After that, we will be ready to apply the sealer. As you could see, we are sanding with the grain to ensure that we remove any scraper marks or any scratches that might be cross grain. Now that the table is all sanded with 80 grit sandpaper, then 150 grit sandpaper, the next step is to use a blower and just blow. If you don't have a blower, you could use a duster and just dust off all the brush, all the dust from the surface. What you don't want to do is use any solvent. Do not use any kind of solvent on the table. The table has to be dried and free from all kind of moisture. It's ready to put on the sealer. If the table gets wet, you have to wait until it's completely dry and all that moisture is out of that surface. Otherwise, you're gonna get moisture trapped underneath the sealer, and that will cause failures. It's gonna turn milky and it's gonna be a bad finish. So the only thing you're gonna do is get the dust off, and we're ready to add the sealer. And I will show you that next step. Stay tuned. For the sealer, I'm gonna be using West System with the special hardener, and that's what I'm gonna use. After the sealer, I'm gonna put 2 coats of West System with the special hardener. So I'm gonna do 1 pump here, 1 to 1. You're gonna stir this, stir it really good. Spend a minute mixing this thing up. And then we're gonna put some 30% of the volume of lacquer thinner in there. I'm just gonna estimate what 30% is of the volume. Now we want it nice and runny, so it's gonna serve as a penetrating sealer. And what it's gonna do is penetrate the wood and seal the wood from all moisture. If you put this thing on, West System on, without thinning it, it's just gonna sit on the surface, and over time it's gonna separate from the surface. It needs to penetrate the surface and serves as a penetrating sealer for the wood. So now it's all mixed up, it's all runny. I'm just gonna use a disposable brush, and it's simple as just brushing it on. Just brush it on. And as you could see, this is all natural color of the wood. What it's giving me is the natural color. As you could see, it's all clay. So stay tuned. So here we are sanding the sealer, and I'm using 220 grit sandpaper. And from now on, we're not gonna be using any sander to sand. We're gonna be doing it manually by hand. It's easier to gauge and not burn through when we're sanding by hand. So moving forward, all sanding will be done by hand. And we're using, for the first sanding, 220 grit sandpaper. Basically just breaking it down, and we're gonna apply another coat of West System, and then repeat the process, sand again, and apply another coat. So there will be sanding in between every coat. And after that, after 3 coats of West System, we're gonna put a clear finish, probably 4 or 5 coats of clear finish over the table. So it's gonna look like glass. It's gonna have a nice thick clear finish. So that's how it's gonna be done. Stay tuned. Kenny's Yacht Maintenance. So we're using some denatured alcohol to clean the surface. The surface was completely sanded with 220 grit sandpaper. Then I used some fresh water to clean Now I'm using some denatured alcohol to wipe the surface. Then I will use a tack rag to get rid of all dust. And I'm gonna mix up the same process yesterday, West System, with the clay hardener, special hardener, and give it a coat. And in the interest of time, we're not gonna show the whole process, but I will show you the finish, and that process will be repeated 2 more times before adding on the clay. Kenny's Yacht Maintenance, stay tuned. So this is the first coat of West System, and as you see, the grain is gonna full up pretty quick using the West System. After the second coat and third coat, it's really gonna be a glassy finish. We will sand and apply and sand and apply. The process continues. Alright, so we have 4 coats of West System on this bar top. So just show what it's look like. 4 coats of West System. Just go back. So it has a really nice thick finish of West System, but West System should not be the final coat of a bar top, countertop, table. West System is only used for a quick build-up, so you have a nice thick build-up, but you should put a final clear coat over the West System. If you leave the West System just as it is, you leave the table or bar top, countertop just as it is, it looks pretty, but it will break down in a short time. It doesn't have the UV protection needed to be on its own. Wear and tear, it's really gonna break down really fast. So you should put a clear finish, and I have inside the workshop a few different clear finish that can be used on this countertop. It will have to be sanded and either brush apply or spray apply any one of the heavy duty marine finish inside. So I'm gonna take you inside and show you these products that can be used on this bar top. But as pretty as it looks, it is not done yet. It has to get a few coats of any one of the marine products inside that I'm gonna show you. So let's go inside. So here I have a list of products that can be used on this table. We're gonna start off with single part varnish. I have the Total Boat Lust that can be used on this table. I have Captain's varnish. All those are single part. I have the Epiphane's varnish. All those are single part varnish that just need some thinner or reducer. This is just one of the thinner or reducer that can be used to thin it to allow it to flow on all 3 of them. Then we're gonna go to a 2-part product now. We have the Bristol Finish. This is a clear product as well, and that can be used. It's much more durable than any of the single part product. It comes with the base and a converter or catalyst or hardener for that product, and also it has a reducer for it or thinner. Then we go to, this is an all grip product, Awlbrite. Awlbrite is specially made for wood finish, tables, countertop, any one of those products, toe rails, handrails. Awlbrite is used on the yachts a lot. It's made by Awlgrip. It comes with the base, a converter or hardener, and the activator reducer. Then we go to Allcraft 2000. So this is Allcraft 2000, also a clay product, and can be used on any one of those finish. Then we goes to All Grip Clay. All Grip clay is a much harder finish, very durable. It's a little harder to repair if you have a repair to do. Awlbrite is a little harder to repair, but Awlbrite clay can be used on the table as well. Then we go down the line to Awlbrite clay. Awlbrite is another product that can be used on the countertop table, any one of over the West system, so that the West system has a finish over it. And you would do multiple coats, 3-4 coats of any one of those products. Now, because this table is for a villa and it sits right over the ocean, it takes a lot of sun all day long, also the salt from the ocean. We want to treat this countertop, bathtub like a piece of furniture on a boat, because it's exposed to all the elements that a boat would. I will not use the single pad varnish. Not that it's not good, any one of the single pad varnish will work, but they will require much more maintenance because it's not as durable as any of the 2-pad. So let's put any of those aside. I'm not gonna use any of those just because this table takes a lot of weather. Then we have all 4 of those. The Bristol finish can be used, Awlbrite can be used, Awlcraft can be used. Now Awlcraft is made by Awlbrite, and this is a sprayed material only. So you got to spray the Awlcraft. So to spray the Awlcraft, you got to use the spray converter for Awlbrite. So that same spray converter will be used with the Awlbrite clay. Now, if I was brushing the Awlbrite clay, I would use the brush converter. So there's 2 different converters. The spray converter can be used with this product, and a brush converter can also be used with this product. Now, the Awlcraft, according to Awlbrite, only should be sprayed on. So you're gonna use the spray converter with the Awlcraft, and we use the same reducer, the T003 spray reducer, for the Awlbrite or the Awlcraft. And then we go down the line to the Awlbrite, which has its own converter and its own reducer for the Awlbrite. So I can play a little mini mo and figure out any one of those 4 I will put on that countertop. And all of them are durable product with high UV content in there, and will be best for sitting out there, taking the sun, taking the salt. So I will decide which one of the products I'm gonna use. If I'm gonna use the Awlbrite, I could either spray or brush. The same with the Awlbrite. I could either spray it or brush it. The difference is we're using a spray converter and a spray reducer. Or if I'm brushing, I'm using a brush converter and a brush reducer. It gets a little complicated, but after doing this for so many years, it comes like ABC. So stay tuned. Kenny's Yacht Maintenance, we're gonna give this tomorrow. We're gonna be sanding it and applying one of this finish. Now, before, if I decide to spray, all the spraying can be done in one day. You put 4 coats and it's done. But applying by brush, you got to apply, wait for that to dry, and sand is a little more labor intensive when applying by brush. But if I'm spraying it, all the spraying, 4 coats done in one day, as long as there's no bugs, no dust in it, it's finished. So stay tuned for the results. This table is gonna look really pretty. Kenny's Yacht Maintenance, where we continue to work smarter and not harder. Stay tuned. So we pressure wash this entire room, get it all cleaned, and now we wash down with soap and water, and now we're using some denatured alcohol and wiping down the entire surface. Then we will use a tack rag and tack for dust. The room is fairly clean because we just pressure washed that room to get rid of all the dust, and then we will apply the final coat of Awlbrite. We already put 2 coats of Awlbrite, and this would be the 3rd coat of Awlbrite, all brush applied. Stay tuned. Now we are using a brand new tack rag and just lightly tacking the surface for any dust that may remain on that surface. Just lightly passing the tack rag. Now we getting ready to apply the finish coat, and we chosen Awlbrite as the finish application. And Awlbrite is mixed 2 parts to 1 part of the converter, 2 parts of the base to 1 part of the converter to 1/2 part of the activator or reducer. So we're getting ready. It's important to wear respirator. This is 3 coats of Awlbrite over the wet system, sanding in between every coat. So this is the final finish, and as you see how glossy it is.
From Massachusetts Institute of Technology, I am the proud product of Kenny's Yacht Maintenance, where we are in the business of working smarter, not harder. Please like, share, and subscribe.
Kenny's Yacht Maintenance from Georgetown, Guyana, where we are in the business of working smarter, not harder. Keep on keeping on.
That's from somewhere.